In episode 1.8 of Unshuffled, we discuss a recently released album, Scorpio, by our old favourites, the Atomic Bitchwax. Buy it and listen to it, then listen to this podcast. And now, to begin proceedings, here's 7 Planets. Hypothetical. The year is 2022. The pandemic has subsided. We don't hear about it much in the news anymore. Finally, at last, live music has started again. And the great zombie mink apocalypse of 2023 to 2035 is still in its very early stages. We're not too worried about that yet. We're in Europe. You and I somehow have managed to convince our families we're all meeting in some European city, some cool rock-friendly European city. Let's call it Berlin. I don't know, to pick one. Munich, one of those. We're there for a night, and we say, let's go see a band. Yeah, we can do it now. There's 2 bands playing that night. One playing at a sort of large 3,000-person kind of theatre or hall is Gojira. The other, playing at a much smaller, sort of 150-person bar, is the Atomic Bitchwax. Who are we going to see?
Atomic Bitchwax. I'm not even going to hesitate.
No. It's not even close for me. So then the next question is, what if we're there for 10 nights and for some freak reason, both bands are playing for those 10 nights and we have to go and see one of them each night? How many times are we going to see the Bitchwax? How many times? We've got to see Gojira at least once, right?
Right. Yes.
Just the once?
Well, I mean, no, 10 nights. I'll give Gojira. Yeah, no, I'll see Gojira again. But
yeah, 8 too?
All right, see there. Like Atomic Bitchwax, I bet if you've got a stretch of 10 nights with them, you're getting a different show every night.
Yeah. And you're probably, by the 8th or 9th time, at the end of the show, you're having a nice cold beverage with the band members and, having a chat. It'd be much more informal and much friendlier, right. I would have thought. Plus, you're going to make better friends there, I would have thought.
Yeah, no,
you're going to meet more interesting people.
Yep, doing Bitchwax.
Yeah, good. I'm glad we agree.
Doing the Bitchwax.
All right, let's hope it happens.
Yeah. Well, so can we jump into what you linked there? What was it? Was it the Bus Invaders? No, it was Tour Tips.
Yeah.
It was the Bus Invaders, and they were talking about how nobody's wearing a mask, and so I was as I'm watching it, I'm like, well, I wonder how long ago this was. And then they talk about how they have the wet wipes for the COVID or for the Corona. They called it the Corona, and I was like, oh, this wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, they're still out there braving the Corona. I don't know how much touring they've been doing. I know it's played havoc with their schedule. They were supposed to have toured Europe on the back of the album release in mid-2020. They ended up having to delay the album release and cancel that European tour. They were then going to go to Japan and Australia in sort of September, October, I think, and keep touring after that. But none of that was able to happen, unfortunately, for the band and their fans around the world. But yeah, if we ever get a chance, I can't wait to see this band live if we ever get the chance.
Yeah, no, I will travel. I will go out of my way to make sure that this is in my itinerary.
Yep, agreed. I feel like we are among the world's leading experts on this band. If you ranked the top 100 experts on the Atomic Bitchwax in the world, if you got them all into one room and ranked them from most expert to the 100th most expert, firstly, I think we'd be in the room. How high up the ranking is the question. I reckon we'll be in the top sort of 50 or 60.
I'm going higher.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Maybe higher.
I'm pushing single digits.
Really?
I
Hmm.
don't know.
Okay.
I
Well,
feel
if you take out the band members, immediate family, past band members, yeah.
So we are unshuffled. Thanks for tuning in. And we will today be discussing the latest Atomic Bitchwax album, which is called Scorpio. It was released in 2020. We are trying to bring back the album. So we pick a band that we know we should have listened to, but we haven't yet. We start with their first album. We listen to it for a good couple of weeks. We get on this podcast and discuss the hell out of it. And then we move on to their second album and their third album and so on. This is the first band for which we have got through their entire catalog, finished, and then they released a new album. So we've now had to circle back. And just to, for completionists out there, we are now reviewing their latest album, which was released in the second half of 2020. And we'll discuss that release date and the details of that in a moment. But yeah, how did you feel? Having spent so much time with Gojira, how did you feel about now circling back to our old friends, the Atomic Bitchwax?
So I remember I was ready to go. But at the same time, as I started to put it in, I wasn't entirely sure. But the minute, we'll get into this when we talk the track by track, but the whole thing just felt familiar. It didn't hurt that I had heard that first song before. But the whole thing definitely, it felt familiar. It took me straight back to Vermont. It took me, I can remember I would be driving to the dump, and I would just have Bitchwax playing out whatever truck we had rented. And it just, it took me straight back there.
Yeah. Yeah, it did feel very familiar very quickly. To me, it felt like we've just spent 5 months reading, analysing, picking apart the entire catalogue of Cormac McCarthy's novels. And now we've switched to a Batman comic. And that's okay. Like, I don't want that to sound like a criticism. You can't spend your whole life reading Cormac McCarthy novels, as good as they are. And I don't think you can spend your whole life only listening to bands like Gojira. You need light and shade, and the Atomic Bitchwax certainly provided a really nice balance against that rewarding but at times intense and difficult journey we had with Gojira.
Yeah, no, I this album, it felt like it just so cleanly, even though the lineups changed, that it's so cleanly picked up where Force Field left off.
I got to say that the reviews I've read of this album have been disappointing, not in that they've been critical, but they've just showed a lack of understanding of their back catalogue, a lack of understanding of the transition that this band has been throughout their career, where they've come from. There were some reviews I've read that didn't even know Hope You Die was on an earlier album. Some are saying, isn't it great to hear some instrumentals, not with no recognition that so many of the previous albums featured instrumentals. I think this would become the definitive review of Scorpio by the Atomic Bitchwax. All right, well, perhaps you can talk a little bit about the nitty-gritty of the release, give us the details of the date and where it was recorded, label, all that sort of stuff. And then let's talk about the production and the change in lineup between the previous album and this one after that. So let's hear it.
So it was supposed to be May 29th. And we have recorded evidence of us around May 29th waiting to hear when this was getting moved back. So then it got pushed back to August 28th. And August 28th of 2020, as you mentioned, is when it was finally released. That's 3 years since Force Field. It seems to be, for the most part, Atomic Bitchwax with Steven Deacutis, I'm going to say that, at Sound Spa in Edison. It seems to be his studio, but I don't have anything. You linked to the studio site, and Steven there's all over it. So I'm wondering if that's his.
It looks like it.
So then the lineup, we've got Chris Kosnick He's our mainstay on bass and vocals. Our Bob Pantella is joining us again on drums, and Garrett Sweeny on guitars and vocals. And you may recognize him from Monster Magnet. Well, you may recognize all of them from Monster Magnet.
You may. Although, news to me, but Chris Kosnick, I saw in an interview I was looking at in the lead up to this podcast, has now left Monster Magnet. He left, I think, in the second half. Sometime during 2020, he handed in his notice to Mr. Weindorf, and he's no longer a member. I don't know if they've found a replacement for him yet. But yes, these three do know each other well, have toured, probably played more Monster Magnet gigs than Atomic Bitchwax gigs in recent years. But Garrett Sweeny was also, they were having some trouble before Finn Ryan's official departure, that he was going through some personal difficulties, apparently. And Sweeny was already filling in at their live gigs for a year or two before this album was released. So he's very much a part of the band, I think. It wasn't just, he didn't just jump on for the album, but he was already a very tightly integrated member of the band. I think it shows on this album. He feels right,
Yeah, absolutely.
As lineups go, we'll talk more about Sweeney's playing style and how he fits with the rest of the band, perhaps as we go through the track by track. But I do like this lineup. I think, and there seems to be some real chemistry between these three members, as you can see in the links I've sent to you, and I'll put them on the show notes. They're on our website, listener, if you're ever wondering where those are. Unshuffledpod.com has all the show notes and links that we talk about throughout. So there's a couple of 5-minute clips of them touring, one with them giving tour tips, which are kind of funny, especially if you've ever been in a band, as you have, Scott, and another one with them showing what they drive around in from gig to gig, and talking about unloading their own equipment and, the coffee they drink as they're driving. And they just seem like good friends, as well as a really tight band. I think they've become, as well as being one of my favorite musically bands, they just seem like really nice guys, like very humble, and really sort of friendly. There's no animosity. You get little hints. You hear Chris Kosnick talking about his time with Monster Magnet, and you sort of get the feeling that he was Weindorf was sort of a little bit, what's the word, overbearing at times, as you can imagine he would be. But there's nothing but thankfulness, really, from Chris Kosnick for his time in Monster Magnet. And he also talks a lot, and I've heard him in 2 separate interviews talking about how much he learned from his 7 years standing on stage behind Dave Weindorf and playing Monster Magnet songs. He learned a lot about songwriting and the craft of making accessible, fun, but still heavy music.
There is that moment in Bus Invaders where he introduces the driver as the camera's coming around the corner. And before the camera shows it's Garrett Sweeny, I was like, whoa, they got a driver? It just felt, it felt kind of excessive. And then it was Garrett Sweeny who's, all right, got it, right. Because they do their own merch. Yeah.
Again, it's another reason to go and see them. The fact that they're just there selling their records at the end, they're driving their own truck to and from the gig. They're sleeping on a blow-up mattress in the hotel room at the end of the night. I wonder if they have to draw straws to see who gets the blow-up. Whoever makes the most mistakes during the gig or something. But yeah, very likable band, and they feel like three very close friends, and I think that it shines through on the album.
I think the one who doesn't drive is the one that has to sleep on the blow-up mattress.
Well, but they said they never let Kosnick drive.
They never let Kosnick drive, so he gets the blow-up mattress.
Maybe. I don't think he'd mind too much just hearing him talk. Before we get into track by track, we should talk cover artwork. I don't have any details about who did this sort of etching or drawing of the scorpion woman with the psychedelic swirl behind her. So it's half scorpion, half woman. They have a woman on most of their album covers. I think the octopus was the exception to that, although maybe it was a woman octopus, I'm not sure.
I like it. I do really like this album cover. I like sort of that stereoscopic kind of that 3D effect. Like,
Yep.
like if you put on the right glasses, Jaws will jump out at you.
Yeah, I like the image too. I must say the CD itself is very, and I've spoken about this in the past, I don't think labels really care much these days about the CDs. No one's buying them anyway. Kosnick himself doesn't buy CDs, he said, again in one of those interviews. But I've got the CD, and yeah, it's just a sort of cardboard fold-out thing with no lyrics and not a lot of detail. A couple of band pictures and the Scorpion woman on the front.
What's the the actual disc itself? Is it just
the disc looks like, I'll hold it up for you, and this is going to be great for our listeners, but it's like an eye, an iris, which is kind of cool. Right. If that was on vinyl, it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I bet the vinyl's got to be clear. They're all about the clear or the sort of the colored vinyls.
But I've got the CD, and that'll be going into the car when I get back to where my car is. Okay, so let's get into the track by track. I'll kick us off with the first track, which is Hope You Die. Now, as longtime fans know, I must say not everyone that's written reviews of this CD seems to know. This song was on their very first album. And in fact, this was the very first song with lyrics that Chris Kosnick ever wrote for the Atomic Bitchwax. I wasn't sure initially how I felt about it. I wasn't sure the message they were trying to send, whether it was a nod to their old fans, a sort of welcome to the band for the new guitarist, a sign that, hey, look, we sound better now. Look, our production's so much better. Don't we sound great compared to how we sound on the first album? There are some differences between this version and the original version. So the original one had Ed Mundell on guitar, and he, as we both know and liked, was a big fan of the space laser sound, and so there's no space lasers on this one for starters. The bass balls effect on the bass guitar is here, but it's less in your face, less obvious. Perhaps the biggest difference between this and the originally recorded version is that now we have two vocalists, Chris Kosnick and the new guitarist, Garrett Sweeny, alternating lines throughout the verses. Now, we know they do that live, or they have been doing that live for some time now, but this is the first time it's been recorded. It's a cleaner sound than the original. There's no mellow, trippy bit. The original had a sort of breakdown, trippy bit in the middle, and the solos are a bit different, but essentially it's the same song. Chris Kosnick gave a reason for re-recording it. He said that after gigs, a lot of fans would come up to them and say, what album is this on? I want to buy it. And they'd have to say, well, you can't buy it because at that point it hadn't been re-released, and there was just no way to get it. It's not on any streaming services. So he said that now when a fan asks after a gig, which album's it on, he'll be able to say, the latest one, do you want to buy it? So I guess it's a way of selling new records to newish fans. I think it's a little bit more than that, though. I think it's all of those things that I mentioned. I think it is a nod to old fans that, hey, we're still the same band that you loved 20 years ago. Also a welcome to the band and a showcasing of their new sound. I don't know what you think about all that.
I didn't know. I hadn't read the reason why they included it, and that does make sense to me because I do remember how when we started this venture, how hard it was to find the first two albums. This song seems to be we've never seen them live, but from anything I've seen on their set list, this song is a constant. This song is a staple, right? Mm-hmm. And it has been, and it's had from the version that we heard on the first album to the version that we've seen on YouTube with Finn Ryan, it's taken all these different iterations. And it feels as if this song's sort of taken on a life of its own. It does sound like a different song. And in fact, it didn't, when I first heard this, and I first put this on, I was out grilling something, and I was listening to it, and I was like, man, this just sounds so familiar. But it didn't occur to me that I actually knew this song, right? And then when I went back and listened, I went back and I was like, oh, of course I know the song. But it does sound. I mean, the first album, it's a little bit more flat. That's probably because of the recording. But I mean, 2/3 of the band it's a new band, and I think that does. I mean, I think that does come through on the song. I think that Bob Pantella's been playing this song long enough now that he's made it his own, and Garrett Sweeny definitely has a different feel on the guitar. The solos are different, so I really like it. With that said, I do miss the Space Lasers.
Yeah, the Space Lasers were always a highlight when they pulled those out. We haven't heard much of those in recent times. But yeah, I like it too. And I think I read in one interview they were sort of critical of the message they were sending about, they haven't evolved or anything. But as I've always said, they can do what they want. It's their own song. And I have no problem with the message, with the sort of nod to the old fans, the fact that it's the 20-year anniversary of that first album. Yeah, just to sort of give their newer fans a chance to have a copy of this song somewhere for whenever they're going to see them live again, which hopefully will be soon.
That makes sense. I wonder when you go to see them, I mean, I wonder what vinyl they have, like how far back they have vinyl that you can buy. And I'm imagining it's probably hard to buy the first and second album from them.
Yeah, well, TP did re-release that first one. And that was notoriously hard to get for a long time before that. You've got a copy of that yourself, don't you? That first,
right? And I feel like that re-release happened around the time that we started doing this podcast.
But yeah, it has been notoriously hard to get those first few albums. This is a chance for fans. There are all sorts of label problems. I think 2 of the labels they were on sort of self-destructed at different times. They weren't overly great at managing their own catalog and keeping track of who owned the rights and all that sort of stuff. So it's not only is it not available on albums and CDs and things, but they don't actually own the rights to these to stream them through Spotify or whatever, which must be a real pain for the band. But having re-recorded it, now it's out there.
Yeah, and it's theirs. All right, so that leads us into Energy, track 2. So Energy then is our first brand new song for the album. So the one thing that I noticed, and I need to go back because I don't remember talking about this or noticing this quite so much before, but I feel like this, and it struck me in this song. There's a rhythm guitar. There's a layer of rhythm guitar underneath, right? So now this notorious power trio has kind of taken on a fourth sound that I don't remember being there. Like, and they're not hiding it. I mean, we're still getting the rhythm guitar underneath the guitar solos, and I don't know why that it's not even a complaint, but it was something that I noticed listening to this track that I doubt this is the first time they've done it. I'm imagining if I was to go back and listen more closely to Force Field, I would hear elements of it there. But anyway, so I noticed that here.
Yeah, I just on that, I made a note of that too. Like you, perhaps they'd done it before. I hadn't noticed it either. It is an interesting decision that every 3-piece has to make, though, right? You have to either record over your own sound on the rhythm, and then you're going to have trouble replicating that live, or you're going to have to sort of work around that in the live setting, or you do what Pantera, for example, used to do, which is you sort of turn up the bass during those solo sections and sort of vary the bass line a little bit. I always thought the solos were the weakest part of Pantera songs for that reason, though, not because Dimebag wasn't a great soloist, but just because there seemed to be that sort of chasm underneath where the rhythm guitar would normally go. So it's a purely a stylistic choice. I think, just in terms of sound, I prefer to have a solo sitting on top of a rhythm guitar rather than just having it all drop away. So I don't have a problem with them doing it. I'm sure they can work around it live too.
If nobody's been listening to our podcast, you might have just gotten us into the news. Did you just criticize Dimebag's solos?
No, I said he was a great soloist, but I criticized the lack of support that Pantera gave him during that time, as having only one guitarist in the band.
All right. So anyway, going back to this one, I like the way that the guitar it does then eventually everything falls away, right? So that rhythm guitar isn't dominating, and it falls away into that sort of kind of that little bass riff, and then it ends on that bouncy little bass number. The song itself felt very, very much like it could have been on Force Field, which I liked. That's not a criticism. That was an appreciation.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of tempo and the vibe of the song, it does have a force field feel to it. I mean, really, it could have been on just about any of their albums. Again, not a criticism. I thought the production on this is the first time I really sort of compared the production to their previous album, and I think it's better produced. One of my criticisms of Force Field was it was a little thin, particularly compared to Gravitron. I think we're getting back into the real sort of crunchy, muscular production values that we saw, perhaps not quite up there with Gravitron, which they obviously put a bit of money into and went to a very fancy studio. But this, I think, is not far off that level. Really nicely produced. Love the solo. So it's the first time it's this extended, really melodic solo. So this was the first time that I thought, wow, the Sweeny guy's really good. In fact, I'm already asking myself, is he their best guitarist yet? Which, obviously it's too early to answer that, but the fact that popped into my head so early in the albums is saying something great about him, given who's come before him. And some nice little production touches throughout, some little guitar sort of swirly things here and there, some nice attention to detail in the way they put this together. And Chris Kosnick sounds great. His singing, as we've mentioned previously, has come so far since those early days. He's showing his range here. There's clarity. He's confident. The lyrics, again, typically opaque, have no idea. It's just a bunch of words that sound good in a rock song, which most Bitchwax songs seem to be. I'm sure there's some rhyme or reason to them, but whatever it is, doesn't really matter. It just suits the music and a nice song, I thought, to lead us into the first instrumental on the album. Now, Force Field only had one instrumental, which was the least they had on any of their full-length releases. We're back to 3 instrumentals, which I think is about the average for a Bitchwax release. This is the first one. It's called Ninja. It's quite similar, really, to the one that was on the previous album, which was Fried, Died, and Land to the Side, which was that frenetic sort of, we use that on a lot of their songs, but as always, Kosnick steps up his bass playing in the instrumental, so we really get to showcase the big runs along the Kosnick fretboard. Sweeney's solos are scorching in this. Again, they're recorded over his rhythm, so we get that again, the Sweeny rhythm guitar and the Sweeny solo. This is about 4 minutes, I think, this song, and the song kind of restarts almost exactly halfway through. So it's almost like they play the song, they stop, and then they start again, with some variations in the solos and here and there, some different notes. But Ninjas are supposed to be quiet. There's nothing quiet about the song. It's a very energetic, in the vein of some of their faster instrumentals. I'm thinking, what were some of those ones off, like Supercomputer and those sort of faster ones from a few albums ago.
Right.
And would be great live. And as always, love hearing Kosnick in these.
Warclaw. That's the one I was thinking of.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. The baseballs, I definitely hear them. I think I hear them. I hear something that at least that sounds like them. But that sort of that chugging kind of just sound is back. And the drums even, and this is the production value, but there's like a slap to the drums where you can just feel it just kind of reaching out, smacking you around while you're listening to it. It's just the sound, the way that even like Kosnick and Sweeny will step back and give each other room to just kind of overlay their riffs. The way the whole thing works is great, and it is instrumental, and it's one of those songs that it's just destined to be. It just wants to be played live. I think there was a review that said this song will encourage you to karate kick a tree. I don't know what that means, but that's great. All right. So, and that leads us into the title track 4, which is Scorpio. First off, I got to mention the video it's that Jason and the Argonauts fighting skeletons. Great.
Yeah.
Anytime I see that clip is great. That clip to Atomic Bitchwax is amazing. There's just he's got his wah bass solo that comes in there at the same time that the guitar solo, right? So they're layering that. There's like this dueling solo action that's happening. This song, marked as one of those that's up there for my favorite track on the album. I don't know what he's saying. I have no idea what he's saying, but I like it. I assume they're words, but it's more of a sound. He's just sort of stressing like this sound over that chorus. Even it just like in that chorus, just they couldn't even wait to get to the chorus. They're just going to go ahead and just start with the chorus and then kind of move through with the whole thing. This song is another one that I wrote. This song has to be amazing live.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this riff, I love this riff. This is the kind of riff that I would call a riff that doesn't quit. It's similar. It reminded me in a way of, remember Marching on the Skulls of the Dead from their second album? That sort of extended riff that just kind of keeps going and sort of swings back around on itself. I love this riff. Entombed had a couple of these when they moved into their death and roll phase in the late 90s. There were a couple of Entombed songs that had this style of riff that just sort of, you can't help but nod your head to. I agree with the lyrics. I did pick up a few here and there, just snippets. Like it starts with, I need a minute so I can get up in it. I mean, just great fun lyrics. At some point he says, I know you'll be back like a panic attack. And there's some other little snippets here and there that I've picked up that just make you smile. And again, suit the fun nature of the song and the film clip. And I agree, this has to be on their new live set, please, whenever we get to see them. I also just want to give a little nod to their shout out to Black Sabbath at the end of the song. The that last 20 seconds is I'm sure a nod to, I think what Sabbath song is it? I think it's Killing Yourself to Live, or one of those classic Sabbath, early Sabbath songs that finishes in a similar way. So great song, loved it. And whenever we get to see this song live, yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Now, the next song's called Easy Action. To me, this is where I really smiled, because one of my criticisms of Force Field, the previous album, was it felt very similar after a while in terms of tempo. And I just was crying out for a tempo change somewhere in that album, just to break it up and give us something to hang on to as a sort of something different, you know, a sort of turning point in the album kind of thing. We get that here with Easy Action. It's a mid-tempo driving rhythm, so a sort of stomping bass drum, but at a slower tempo. The film clip to this has a cool sort of 60s vibe, some sort of go-go dancey type women with bob haircuts twirling around on a dance floor. There is a sort of retro vibe to the song. There's a shaker and there's a sort of grooviness throughout the song. A really good song. I love some of the lyrics. I'm on a heavy metal mission, 100 years in one condition. I don't think he states what that condition is. Also, we get our first and perhaps only on this album, but he's done it a few times on previous albums, his own name check, where he says, they're all atomic bitches. And that always gets me smiling as well. Enjoyed the song. And yeah, really appreciated the fact that it was a change in tempo and a great song to boot.
So I wanted to jump in with the lyrics there. The one that stuck out to me was "concussion from the meteor destruction." I was like, yeah, that's great. I think this is my favorite track on the album. The opening bass riff, the bass runs throughout. They come in through the chorus, the opening riff. I like the lyrics. I like his nod to space. Right, that's where we started, was space. This whole meteor destruction thing. I really like this song. That moves us into Crash, the next instrumental. And the one thing I wrote about this one, to me, this one didn't feel as intentionally instrumental as Ninja. Ninja felt like it was intended to be an instrumental. There were several moments where I felt like, okay, here's where the lyrics should come in. Takeaway from this, there were some great solos from both Kosnick and Sweeny, and there's a cool effect on his bass at one point. I guess this one kind of maybe just felt somewhat incomplete. Okay.
Yeah. I really like this instrumental. I didn't notice that to the same degree. I just love the main riff and the space, as you mentioned, the no, and then the drum fill. So there's a nice build to this song. I thought the bass effect you've mentioned, it's almost like a bass solo at one point, kind of, and some really nice bass runs. And Pantella does some nice work as well. Again, I just feel like it's I don't think this song would have been too difficult for them to write. It felt like a very natural Bitchwax song. Almost from the first few notes, you kind of know where this song's going to go, and that's okay. But yeah, they're sounding really tight. It'd be a fun song to play. I take your point now that I think about it, about the lack of lyrics. Maybe it could have done with some lyrics, but I still enjoyed the main riff and just hearing them, the interplay between the band members, enough to still think positively overall about the song. In fact, it may be my favorite instrumental on the album, just for that fun kind of metallic riff, sort of dumb metal riff. I thought was cool. The next one, Supersonic, which starts with the words "aim high, right through the eyes." I had some good fun with this song. Nice driving rhythm. Again, it's probably not one that they thought too long and hard over. I think it's, the songwriting's coming pretty easily to them. This is probably my least favorite on the album. It's the closest, I think, to a by the numbers Bitchwax song on this album, I think, even though I still enjoyed it, and especially the extended solo. I think the problem I have with this song is that I'm really looking forward to the next song, which we'll discuss in a moment. But most times when I'm listening to this, I'm just impatient because I know my favorite song is coming next. Still enjoyed it, but not my favorite off the album by any stretch.
This song this has to be the setlist closer. I felt like that with the extended solo, which went, I mean, that solo went into Leonard Skinner area, right? I mean, that was like, there was some straight up just arenal rock lighters out on that extended solo. And then it comes back in and does, I think, the verse and the chorus again. But there's like, if they would just cut that out, like they just end on that solo and then thank good night and walk off the stage. Nobody's leaving unhappy.
Yeah, put the guitar in front of the amp and give them some feedback as you walk off.
Go sell some albums.
Yeah, head to the merch stand.
And then that brings us into You Got It. I like this song. I did like this song. I like the hand clapping. It definitely feels like it's definitely the single. And right when they wrote this, they had to know that. But I'm eager to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Well, I mean, this song rocks, right? I mean, this is just a classic, dumb, fun, hard rock song. So this, to me, genre-wise, we've always debated, when are they playing stoner rock? When are they leaning metal? When are they going retro? I think this is just a straight-ahead rock song. But I'd set this comfortably alongside anything by AC/DC, Kiss, any of those big rock bands who are just great at churning out crowd pleasers. This is right up there. This is a crowd pleaser song. Hand claps, a shaker. Again, it's straightforward, it's simple, it's predictable, but there's an art to writing a straightforward, simple and predictable song. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, but not everyone can do it. I love the lyrics. There's a real joy in this song. It's a joyous song, and the lyrics are about the joy of finding someone who you admire and connect with and want to hang out with, I really like it. The film clip is interesting. It's a sort of anti-catcalling song. I'm okay with it. Maybe a little bit clumsy, but I like the sentiment of the film clip. I just love the song, and I'd love to see this live. I really had fun with this. This was fun.
What struck me about the film clip was just if you go back and listen to some of our earlier conversations with regards to the album covers, and there were moments where there was some sort of discomfort into, right, just kind of how the portrayal and representation. And
sophomoric, I think you used that word a couple of times.
Right. And so I think that this video definitely kind of pushes back on sort of that notion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with age comes wisdom, right? And, Kosnick's a family man. He's got a wife and kids, and, your times change and attitudes change. And I think I'm all for the sentiment expressed in the film clip. Next song, Betting Man. Now, I must say, just while I remember The CD I've got, I didn't mention it when we talked about the packaging, but this is listed as track 2 on my CD. And Energy is listed as track 9. I'm hoping that might be, like when they print stamps and they have a mistake on them, they become worth tens of thousands of dollars. That maybe that will happen with this pressing of.
I bet it'll be worth $1 million.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. It'll go alongside with my limited release Tab 4. The Meteor City release of that. They're going into the
vault
family. Yeah, the vault, they'll be listed in my will one day.
That's the retirement for the kids.
Yeah. And they'll just be shaking their heads going, what the hell? What is a CD for starters? Something old people used to listen to. Gambling provides, I think, a rich source of material for rock songs, for country songs. You think of songs like The Ace of Spades, Kenny Rogers, The Gambler, some great gambling songs throughout music history. This is a good one, I think. Anyway, I like this as a track. I thought it might have worked just as well at the original. Maybe they intended to put it as track 2 at one point and changed it late in proceedings. I thought it would have worked well there as well. It's a good song. It's got those sort of stuttering verses, a stripped back chorus, and then the sort of chorus builds. So there's sort of 2 layers of the chorus, the start of the chorus, and then the guitar joins in for the second part of the chorus. And I really like the finish of this song. It's got a great sort of climax, a really good payoff towards the end of the song where it all comes together and finishes strongly. And so a well-written song, and enjoyed hearing some gambling terms and thought it was a fun song, well worthwhile, well worth the listen.
This song was a creeper for me in that it wasn't until, so I've been listening to this album, I guess, for 2 weeks. It's only in the past couple days where when this song comes on, I find myself going, well, hang on a sec. I was not listening quite so closely to this one before. And so, this song has just started to, and that for me personally is the sign of a great album. When I go back and listen to it, and then all of a sudden it's like I'm still rediscovering parts of it later. And so this song has just recently, in the last couple of days, really started to grow on me. And for all the reasons that you meant, it's a fun song. There's the breakdown of it. There's the bass and the vocals, that breakdown of the bass and the vocals on top of the chorus, and it's a fun song. And that brings us to our last track, instrumental, Instant Death. And I like this song, but the bass is buried in the mix on this one. And I'm curious to know what was the reasoning behind it. I find that interesting. It's almost as if Kosnick just went ahead and just took a step back on this song. I mean, he's definitely playing and he's doing cool, like he's laying it down and he's doing Kosnick stuff. The sound, it just feels lower in the mix.
Perhaps Kosnick decided to give the new member, Mr. Sweeny, a chance to experiment and have some fun. So there's a few interesting things they do with the guitar on this. For example, the solos switch from one ear to the other, like he's dueling with himself. There's some interesting guitar phasing effects in the middle of the song. Pantella's really busy throughout the whole song, especially at the start, that really sort of tom-heavy start. That sort of, he's got quite a metallic style at times, Pantella, and you really hear it on this song. So yeah, maybe it was just Kosnick's decision to mix himself down and let Sweeny have a bit of fun, as he used to do with Ed Mundell back in the early days. Right? Okay, I'm just going to not do much for this song, Ed, and you can fire up the space lasers. I thought it was a good song. I did have one problem with this. I thought, it's good that they're finishing with an instrumental. I remember they did that on their earlier albums, and I went back and listened to their second album and thought, oh yeah, that's right, Liquor Queen, what did that sound like? And on listening to that, straight after listening to Instant Death, I realized how similar those two songs were. The riff in this is very similar to the bass riff in Liquor Queen. It's about the same length, the same tempo. I mean, look, if you're going to rip someone off, you know, at least rip yourself off. I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, it was just a little bit too close to Liquor Queen for me to be overly enthusiastic about this as anything new and exciting. Still served its purpose as a sort of exciting and fast and kind of semi-metallic album closer. But yeah, nothing more for me. So my favorite song was obviously You Got It. Yours was the title track, is that right?
No, I think mine was Easy Action.
Easy Action, that's right. Sorry, yeah. I was listening.
Nice.
And I probably could have put Scorpio up there. There's several good songs on this album, and I'm sure whenever they do get to play live, there's a lot off this album that would work in a live setting. So it really is just take your pick, I think, in terms of what they're going to play off this album in their newer sets.
I don't know. I mean, I'll go see them and prove me wrong, but I feel like Supersonic is one of those songs where you just walk out going, man, what album's that on? It's like, oh yeah, it's on the latest one, right? Where it's all of a sudden it just takes on a whole new life live.
So overall, I'm wondering where you think this ranks, because I remember your favorite album was Gravitron.
Yeah.
My favorite album was Tab 4, which embarrassingly, in an interview that I listened to just today, Kosnick himself said it was terrible. So I don't know how I feel about my favorite album being the one that the driving force in the band hates.
It's funny that that's brought up, because while I was listening to this, I found myself thinking, man, we've moved so, like Tab 4, there was something was being experimented with. And then they really kind of went through great lengths to undo that.
Well, they were trying to sell some albums. That's what they were experimenting with. Can we sell some records? He cited Queens of the Stone Age as a big influence on that album. They were basically trying to become somewhere near as popular as that band, but never quite got there. And I don't think he looks at that. They tuned the guitars up. They listened to more poppy stuff in the lead up. They tried to write some pop rock songs. I think they did it very effectively, but the band members themselves don't seem to.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this question. Here's why. Gravitron has some great tracks on it, right? I love like Coming In Hot, Warclaw, Ice Age, Hey Baby.
Down with the Swirl was good.
Down with the Swirl.
And, the first 3 or 4 songs, a great album. What a super album.
I can definitely say that I like this one better than Force Field.
Yes, I think so. Very much. Force Field had, and listening back to our podcast of Force Field, it still had some really good songs on it, but just as a complete package, I thought it was a little bit lacking, and the production wasn't quite there either.
But I can't. I need more time before I can say which one I would put if I would put this one above Gravitron. But I can't sit here and say definitively that I wouldn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So but I can't say for sure that I would.
Okay. I think it just sits a tier below Gravitron, and I still like Tab 4, even though Kosnick doesn't. Yeah, those two to me are on the top tier, and this, I think, comfortably sits in below them. I know a lot of their fans still hold on to the first album as their best. I'm not quite there with them. I think I really like this new lineup. I think this has a lot of promise, this lineup. I think Sweeny is the perfect fit for this band. I get the feeling, given the troubles that Finn Ryan was having, which they've hinted at, I also think Finn Ryan fitted in well when they were doing that more melodic stuff. He was a very melodic guitar player. But then I feel once they made that decision to turn away from that Finn Ryan perhaps was trying to be perhaps a guitarist that he really wasn't, even though he did it well. And we spoke very highly of him on those 2 albums before this one. I think Sweeney's a more natural fit for the band now that they've decided we're just going to be a hard rocking stoner band and forget about that pop friendly sort of radio friendly stuff. And I'm really looking forward to the next album. Hearing Chris Kosnick interviewed, he's very keen. This is a labor of love for him. Part of the reason he's handed in his notice to Mr. Weindorf was just to be able to devote the time and attention he needs to his songwriting craft the Atomic Bitchwax is where his heart is musically, and I think we can expect many more tours, many more albums from this band. Hopefully, they're not getting rich out of this; they're doing it for love, and I think it's going to continue. Long may it continue.
All right, so I guess that brings us to Van Brownlow.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay.
You go first, because as always, no preparation.
Okay. So Cosmic, right? Number 3.
Okay.
The
3 votes.
Yes,
C.
right.
Cosmic.
Yeah, 3 votes. C Cosmic. I've got to get this is one where I feel like Sweeny, Pantella, I feel like everybody absolutely brought their best to this. The drum sounds, Pantella's drumming on this is so good. But I'm gonna have to go. Sweeney's getting my 2 votes. Just the guitar solos are phenomenal, and even what he's doing with the backing vocals. So I'm going 2 for Sweeny, 1 for Pantella.
I can't bring myself to play the contrarian in any way. You've convinced me, and I completely agree. Cosmic, again, and we've said it on the last couple of albums, he's come so far as a singer, and he's always been a great bass player. I think his singing is a real highlight on this album, and his songwriting, of course. He just writes a great rock song again and again. He's done now dozens and dozens of them throughout his career, and there'll be many more, I'm sure. He gets the 3. I love the fact that Sweeny just stepped up to the plate and hit the very first pitch into the bleachers. I don't even know what these words are that I'm saying. Is this baseball?
It's kind of all over.
He knocked it out of the park. He feels like he's always been in this band, and he belongs with these other 2 band members. And yeah, Pantella's a superb support to the great stuff that's happening at the front of stage. Pantella's spot on, right in the pocket, and steps up and adds a little flair when he needs to, but generally is just happy to sit underneath and do his thing without drawing too much attention to himself, which really is what you want from a drummer, unless you're Gojira, of course. But yeah, looking forward to the next album. Let's hope they get a chance to tour. Let's hope these vaccinations keep rolling out quickly, and the world returns to some sort of normality in the second half of 2021, and we start to read less and less about this pandemic and more about bands that are touring that we might like to go and see, and we'll do our best to track them down when that happens.
It was so great to just sort of bring Bitchwax back, right? Just for even if it's just for a one-off, right?
Yeah.
Because our next meeting, that's where we throw down again.
Yeah, the next one, this is where it gets interesting. We now have to choose our next band. So once I turn the microphones off, we'll sort of work out a time for our next recording, and we'll sit down with our little lists and we'll work out who our next band's going to be. So let's leave that discussion for then, but I've already got some ideas, and I know that you have too. So it'll be interesting to see where we go after this little palate cleanser, as I think you used the term recently. So this definitely served as a palate cleanser. I'm ready for anything now, and looking forward to that discussion in our next podcast.
Absolutely.
So this has been Unshuffled. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. We'd love to hear from you if you've got any thoughts on this, either in 2021 or whenever it is that you're listening to it. You can find show notes and past episodes on our website, unshuffledpod.com. Our Twitter feed is @unshuffledpod. And we also have a Gmail account if you'd like to give us any feedback through email, which is unshuffledpod@gmail.com. Big thank yous to Small Stone and 7 Planets, as always, for the use of their fantastic track Vanguard off the album Explorer. Small Stone, a great label. Who knows, maybe we'll circle back to Small Stone for our next band. There's plenty on the label, so make sure you check out that label and the band 7 Planets if you like what you hear in those few seconds at the opening and close. Been a pleasure as always, Scott. Thank you, and thank you, listener, for tuning in.
Thank you, Matt, and yes, thank you, listener, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.